Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. I appreciate you spending a little time this week with us, once again, right here on NAC TV. I'm Eoin Devereux, news and sports reporter with the Banner Press, joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you in this week.
Good to be here again, and I don't imagine I'll be going anywhere anytime soon, so you'll see me in a lot more future episodes as well.
All right, and let's dig right into this most recent episode and this most recent edition of the Banner Press. Very pleased and happy to be able to bring you this front page story in regard to a story we've talked about many times over the last 6 months. The new medical facility, the new hospital that will be built in Neepawa. Now, we can't say whether or not this location is officially official. That's part of the story behind these types of stories. But we have it on good authority, and we're pretty positive that the location for the new facility, the new hospital, has been selected. Now, for those of you that don't live in Neepawa, we'll give you a little bit of structure as to where it's happening. It's going to be on a portion of farmland, about 39 acres of farmland, just slightly east of Broadway Avenue, a little north of Manitoba Hydro there, up towards the highway. That seems to be the indication that we are receiving in relation to that. This is huge news for the town of Neepawa and for its future, I feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is, a new hospital is something that's sort of been talked about for quite some time, I think. So a new facility, of course, is very much needed and been hoped for some time. I don't recall how old our current one is, but it's definitely getting up there in its years, and it's been working well for us. But new facility with some better equipment, if we're getting more equipment, I think we are.
Yes, yes.
And just general upgrades will be fantastic, not just for us, but people in the area that we serve as well.
Now, you may be curious as to wondering why we're not saying with 100% certainty, why we're hedging our bets, as it were. There is a very specific reason for that. Some land was discussed at a most recent Neepawa Town Council meeting, and it was a redesignation of the land, essentially going from what was called a residential hold property into something called institutional development. Now, this was one of those things that could very easily, if you watch the town council on a bi-weekly basis right here on NAC TV, it would slip right past you because there were it was discussed in a vague way. And trust me on this, it was not done out of, desire to do so. There was a recent by-election in Thompson, and during election campaigns, the provincial government cannot make announcements or bring forward anything in regards to new developments, new grants, new anything. That's part of the election sort of regulations that are in place. So, and that trickles down as well to communities, to municipalities. So essentially provinces say, hey, you can't talk about this while this election's going on that is nowhere near you. That election was occurring on Tuesday evening. The day we record this is the 9th. It was occurring on Tuesday, June 7th, corresponded with the town council meeting. So they couldn't really comment. They couldn't really say anything in relation to it. And that's why I can say, I'll take the heat on this. It's my name on the story, so I'll take the heat on this one, Casper. That's why I can say with 99% certainty that the hospital location has been selected, and this is where it is going. So very much pleased to be able to sort of share this information with you, even though it is not officially official just yet. I'm sure in a future edition of the paper, maybe next week, maybe the week after, we'll be getting that official media release from the province saying, hey, we're ready to bring some shovels out and do a photo op. And, well, we'll be very appreciative when they finally decide to sort of do that. So, but this is just, again, this is great news. The facility itself and what it means for the region. big story.
Absolutely huge story. And honestly, just in general, it feels good to finally have an answer for people. Because I know, of course, when this was sort of first announced in the paper here, obviously there wasn't a whole lot of details. They hadn't selected a site yet. And then sometime after, people were wondering, well, where's the hospital going? So we had another story. And the story was basically just, well, we don't know either. Things are still developing. We don't know. We know as much as you do. But to finally have that answer now and to see the area that it's most likely definitely going to go is very exciting. It's a nice area. There's a lot of space for them to build what they need to build. So it's incredible.
The thing is, with the feds and the provinces, they don't get small towns maybe the way they should. I mean, everybody in the small town has an opinion and hears all the hubbub and all the hearsay. So I'm sure representatives with the town of Neepawa, councillors, the mayor, administration have probably had people coming up to them in the stores and the coffee shops and the restaurants saying, hey, it's going here, isn't it? Or it's doing this, isn't it? Or what's happening with this? And it's one of those things that everybody's in the know already, but, nobody can say with, 100% certainty. It's like we know, but we don't really know. It's one of those things that just is such a pain in the butt when it comes to politics. Not on a municipal level, some to a degree to a municipal level, but really it feels like from the province's perspective, and especially from the federal perspective, everybody's just got to do this little sort of song and dance before it's all done. But hey, don't get me wrong, very appreciative of the province supporting this long-needed endeavor for the town of Neepawa. So it's great. We've got the story. You can find it right on the front page of this week's edition of the Banner Press. Continues on as well to page 19. We also will have that story available online if you're not in Neepawa and you can't pick up a copy of the physical representation of the Banner Press. You can check it out on mywestman.ca. All right, we're going to be talking about that a whole heck of a lot more over the next few weeks and months to come. But let's talk about this one. Kira Patterson was able to chase down this story in relation to one of the programs at NACI, Neepawa Area Collegiate Institute. Their Metalworks program has gotten some much-needed upgrades. And again, I'm very glad to be able to that she was able to sort of get that information and share it with us this week, Casper. Do you have a take on this?
Well, it's very big news. Obviously there's a lot of things that you need to be able to do the stuff that you want to do or need to teach in a Metalworks class. And for them to get what they did from actually two different grants or programs is outstanding. They got $18,000 from the one and just under $50,000 from another. And that's going to get them things like a new milling machine, some new lathes, a whole bunch of other stuff. And so that's just incredible. I mean, it goes into a whole bunch more like new ventilation and whatnot. So it's just going to be a lot of awesome upgrades really to this and the school as a whole really. So that's very exciting. And it sounds like the students are really excited about this as well. We have some really enthusiastic students in that class, and one of which Kira actually did get some quotes from, so definitely be sure to check that out. And I was actually really interested in this other segment of the story, but we have a picture, and it goes into detail in the story as well, but some pictures of some bar stool racers that they made. Fascinating little things. I was looking at that for quite a while when we were building the pages there, because it's just like a neat little project, but it's also kind of like a somewhat silly concept. Maybe not silly is the word, but a very interesting concept there, and kind of just a little bit amusing, I guess. Like picture someone sitting on there just like scooting along.
No, that is fantastic. And again, that's the important thing, being able to teach the next generations and future generations the basics they need in interesting ways. When I was a kid, when I was at that age, it was mandatory. You had to take a semester of wood shop. You had to take a semester of metal, and you had to take this is actually, it wasn't a requirement. You had to pick two of the three in my time, Casper, and they were woodshop, metals, and home ec.
Right.
And, again, being a guy raised in the 80s, I took metal and I took woodshop. But being an individual of the new millennium and understanding the world, I really wish I'd taken home ec as one of them, quite honestly. But again, these are all requirements, I think, just to be able to survive in society and to sort of be a productive member of society. I think everybody needs to know just a little bit of all of those, in my opinion.
Right, yeah, I know I think for me, home ec might have been a mandatory class, but I think industrial arts and woodworking were sort of elective programs that you could do. So I never did the metalworking stuff, but my sister did, and I think my brother did as well. I did the woodworking. I thought it would be interesting, and it was pretty fun. But yeah, you get into a whole bunch of different things in there, and like the stuff that you can make is so cool, and you come away with some really valuable knowledge as well on just like different ways on how to do things with metal materials and anything else that might come with that. It's awesome. And
again, of course, obviously, though, the equipment required for metalworks is very expensive when you're working with those types of things. So this type of money, this type of support is going to go a long way to ensuring that this program stays top shelf, top level. You can find that story in this week's paper, and I do hope you take a few minutes to check it out yourself. Casper, you had an opportunity. Actually, we both had an opportunity in separate times during the week to take a little trip out to Gladstone, didn't we? Let's start with you, though. So.
Yeah, it was a nice little drive up there. I quite enjoyed it, to be honest. It's kind of nice to break things up a little bit, get out of the office, and see some new landscapes. But on, was it like June 6th, I believe it was, this past Monday, I took the drive up to Gladstone to William Morton Collegiate Institute, actually, to check out their fun day, because they're having their first annual fun day on that day. And it was quite the big event. They've sort of had something like this in the past, but it was more of like a focused thing to showcase the industrial arts students' projects, specifically go-kart builds, because they've done that, and they use it for a couple different things, both as a industrial arts exercise and sort of like a bit of a science project too, because there's different factors that will go into how fast the go-kart goes. But it's evolved over the years for a variety of reasons and became this big thing that it was on June 6th. So they had the go-kart time trials, which was really cool to see, and they had like pie-in-the-face stuff and inflatable like bouncy castles and games and whatnot. It was really cool, really fun-filled day there for everyone, and you could really just see the excitement, especially, I will say, with the pie-in-the-face thing, because, well, when you're a student, there's likely a teacher you would have fun pieing, whether you just don't like math or, you have a fairly good relationship with the teacher and just like to rib on them a little bit. But yeah, everyone's really excited. Got a few good shots in there, but got my favorite one in the paper on page 11. So yeah, it was a great trip overall.
Several pictures that you can find in this week's paper. And again, it does sound like it was a fun-filled day. And students do need that little sort of day to sort of blow off some steam. School can be stressful, but geez, just wait until the real work, kids. But it can be stressful in a different way for young people nowadays. So it's great to be able to have that type of activity and fun and to sort of see your teachers and administration in a slightly different way.
Certainly, and it sort of brought both schools together, honestly, because there were the high school students and preschool students as well there, just sort of enjoying the day together, doing these different activities. And some good treats as well. They had a freezy station with a bunch of other snacks there too, and just some great ways to have fun and cool off as well.
That's fantastic. We always appreciate being able to sort of share the stories of not just Neepawa, but our surrounding communities as well. And this was one we took from Gladstone. And a day or so earlier, we got another one from the community of Gladstone. I had an opportunity to go out there on Saturday to be part of their royal celebration that was part of the Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee. Part of the 70th year she's been on the British throne. As part of that, they did a little festivities there at the Legion. They had a little fun activities for adults and for kids. They had a little bouncy castle thing set up for the kids and a beer gardens type thing for the adults. And as well, they had, this was interesting, a flyover. A couple combat helicopters flew over first, and then a jet, or not a jet, I should say, an airplane. It was a, I forget which type, but it was from the Brandon Air Commonwealth Museum, part of that whole thing, and they did a flyover there, so it was kind of interesting. I got to admit, it took a little longer than I would have liked, but I don't like getting out in the sun and the warmth, and it was a warm, sunny day on Saturday, but it's the old Irish heritage. Anything over about 25 degrees, and I start to slowly melt like ice cream. So.
I can certainly confirm having some Irish heritage myself on my mom's side, so I'm right there with you on that.
Yeah, but it is still a lot of fun. It was great to see a pair of helicopters fly by, a low flight over, and the plane to fly over like that. Part of the celebrations. It was wonderful to see Gladstone do things like that, and go along with the fun day as well. We do want to be able to cover communities like Gladstone, Carberry. We do on a weekly basis. Even communities like Minnedosa. Now, again, if you're curious as to why maybe we don't hit Minnedosa with the consistency that maybe we do other communities, part of it is just courtesy. The Minnedosa Tribune, recently sold, as we told you in a previous edition of the Banner Press, it's just that respect thing. Minnedosa has a paper. The big stories, obviously, we are very much going to cover, but out of a sense of respect for another organization, we sort of, that's their territory type thing. Carberry doesn't really, they no longer have a newspaper of their own. Gladstone doesn't have a newspaper of its own. We want to be able to get out there. St. Rose, others in and around the area, try and be as supportive as we can of each and every community that we try to serve. So this week we really did put an emphasis on Gladstone. And we hope that you'll, if you're from Gladstone, you'll keep us in mind. Any types of events, keep us in the loop on that. We'd love to be able to cover them. It's always great to get out of the office every once in a while. And Gladstone, even though the fuel is kind of pricey, Gladstone still ain't that far enough away. So.
Yeah, it's thankfully not too bad. It's not a bad drive at all. And even if we can't, for some reason, get out there for ourselves, we definitely very much welcome any submissions, whether it just be a photo or you do have a little bit of a story to go with it. We'd be very much happy to accept those.
Yeah. All right. So Gladstone as well. We went out to Gladstone a couple times, but some representatives from Gladstone came out here to Neepawa, as well as Carberry, McGregor, Rivers, and Minnedosa, and a few other schools. And why they were here? We recently had, after the first time after an extended hiatus over the last few years, NACI held and hosted the Zone 7 Track and Field Championships. High school competitors came to Neepawa. They were in a varying degree of events, male and female participants as well. And it was great to be able to see it. I went down there for about an hour or so, got some pictures of some of the competitors, some of the events, and it was great to sort of see that again. To see that excitement that hasn't been around the last couple years. Outdoor event, everyone was still keeping their distance to a degree. There were still a few that were wearing masks out and about, and it's wonderful to see that. Everybody sort of doesn't take it for granted, but as well, we do have to sort of find a way to live with what we're dealing with. And part of that living with what we're dealing with the lingering effects of COVID-19, is finding a way to find normal again. Whether it's festivities like the Fun Day, whether it's the Jubilee celebration in Gladstone, or whether it was the track and field championships right here in Neepawa. It feels good to be able to sort of get back to this version of normalcy. Now, as for the day itself, as for the results, I have the team results in the paper. If you're more interested in individuals, you can find individual results. I put them on mywestman.ca. In previous years, a couple years ago, we would pick out maybe the top 5 competitors from NACI, or we'd pick out the top competitors from certain ones and put them in the paper. We didn't do that this year. It was a conscious decision on my part, and I'll specify why. First off, the actual information we get is 19 pages of information. So putting 19 pages of track and field results into usually a 20-page paper, I don't know about you, Casper, but that might be a tough read.
It might be, yeah, just a little bit. And I know I've sort of had to sift through things like this in the past to help out as well. And it's a lot to go through. Of course, being 19 pages, that takes a lot of time. And it does leave room for mistakes as well, because you're trying to make sure that you're reading things correctly and you're not like jumping lines and like misstating like this person did this and this person did that, and it's actually, well, this person did the other thing that person did, and vice versa. So I can definitely back up your decision for that.
Because trade secret as well. For a lot of the information we get sent, sometimes it's a PDF, sometimes it's a JPEG, but nonetheless, a lot of it we have to type in all over again. That is a time-consuming endeavor, and that's the other part of it as well. Just the time to actually go through all of it and put it in there. Now, we're trying to work smarter, as opposed, well, at least I know I'm trying to work smarter as opposed to harder. I think everybody else is the same way. For something like this, we can still cover it in a way that everyone, I hope, will be satisfied without sort of taking up too much time and space. And the most important thing as well is, and something I'm proud of, is we got about 5 pictures of all the action going on in there. Some really good shots, I think, of just some of the movement and the motion and the energy of the day. And they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, so I got about 5,000 words on the page right there, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very well put together there. And like you said, just a lot of motion. And, that's something that comes with track and field meets. And definitely after being on an extended hiatus, I'm sure that all the participants were very excited to get back out on the field for this, because it's a big event for these athletes. So I'm very glad to see them back out there.
But don't think we didn't put any words in there. We did. We put the results for all the teams, all the schools, the medal count for all the individual schools, the results for the female teams and for the male teams. So you can find those with the pictures in this week's edition of the Banner Press. Hopefully you will check that out. Right on the next page, we got a little more sports information to go with. Even though it doesn't feel like it should be hockey season, I guess technically kind of is hockey season, because the Manitoba Junior Hockey League recently held their Bantam Draft. They've changed it up over the last couple years. It's going to be every other year, I believe now. So this was one of the on years where they're going to be selecting players, bringing them in. Neepawa Titans, I had a chance to speak with General Manager and head coach Ken Pearson about it. He's very pleased with it. He felt that this year's roster of players, extremely talented group of players that are going to be coming in. And that's part of it. That's happening every other year, because there's going to be 15 and 16-year-olds that are available for selection. And he brought in 8 players so through the draft, as well as 2 players from the Auto Protect, sort of the hometown sort of Auto Protect, a pair of players we talked about in a previous edition of the story behind the stories. I'm just going to select just 3, just really to talk about. Tyler Schrell was the 7th pick overall. He's based out of Rink Academy in Winnipeg. Very good forward from what Ken was able to tell. He was picked by the Titans. Nate Robson as well selected by the Titans with the 14th pick overall. Both forwards, both something he thinks he's going to be. These are going to be stalwarts. These are going to be foundational players, optimistically, for the team in the future. And one other I want to point out, Tarek Lapointe of Neepawa was selected by the Neepawa Titans with the 72nd pick overall in round 6. And Ken was very adamant about this. He said this one could be the diamond in the rough. He played most of last year with the NACI Tigers. He did play a few games with the Yellowhead Chiefs, the U16, I believe. About 7 games. He did very well with them. But he said this could be that one that other teams regret because we were able to see him a lot more often than the other scouts were for other teams. Only about a half dozen games for the Yellowhead Chiefs. So he sees a lot of potential there. He sees a lot of potential with everyone selected. So hopefully it does play through. Now, if you want to get a little more detail on these players and what they could do for the Titans in the near future, you can find that on the sports page, page 13. Just really quick, one other thing. I want to thank the organizers of a volleyball tournament that took place this past weekend. Filipino Society here in town, they put together a volleyball tournament. They remembered us. They sent us pictures and information. And I've said this, anytime any organization wants to get a little bit of exposure, an event that they did, we'd love to get that information, including our Filipino neighbors and friends here in Neepawa. Fortunately, they shared with me some information about an upcoming basketball tournament that's going to be coming up this weekend. So I'm going to be going down, getting some pictures on that. We'll have the results on that in next week's edition. So very much glad that they were able to share it. If you want to find out who won the weekend, though, for volleyball and see the pictures, you can find that in this week's paper. All right, now before we wrap things up, just one last thing we're going to go in on. There's so much more we could talk about, but there's only so much time in the day for us to be able to do it. I wanted to highlight this thing, though, that's happening this weekend, because I'm sure NACTV is going to be there in person as well. It's the unveiling of the Neepawa tourism murals. Going to be happening at Arts Forward over the weekend on Saturday. I am sure I'm going to be there getting pictures for next week's paper. I'm sure NACTV has already got it on its schedule. It's going to be doing some video there. It's going to be, I think, Casper, a really great time.
Absolutely. I have to say this is something that I'm very excited for myself. I know Neepawa has had a mural in town in the past, but it's since disappeared. So to be able to expect this sort of thing in the future is very exciting. It helps sort of brighten up communities and give them more attractions, honestly.
Oh yeah, and ultimately the hope is that 2 of these are going to be done each and every year on a 5-year cycle, so that there will be 10 in and around downtown Neepawa and used as a tourist attraction, quite honestly. Bring people into the community, have them sort of do the tour in and around, and then maybe spend a few dollars in our downtown. That's an important thing. I hope that it's something that takes off, and it needs to take off with some business support. The murals are done. 2 of them are done. We're going to be unveiling them this weekend, and hopefully a couple local businesses will see the merit and decide that, hey, I want that on the side of my building. I want that mural to bring people in to my business type thing, because that's what it's all about. That's what it really was the focus on, is sort of generating some interest, generating some business opportunities for our local business leaders. So hopefully that does play out like that. So that's pretty much it for us for this week's edition of The Story Behind the Stories. Casper, great to have you in again this week. I appreciate you taking a little bit of your time.
Good to be here again, and I look forward to being here on another episode.
And we appreciate you as well for tuning in every week, right here on NACTV, and learning a little bit about the do's and don'ts, the facets behind the scenes of putting together your community newspaper. We always appreciate your support, and you can do so by contacting us at 476-3401, or you can contact us at news@neepawabanner.com. We appreciate your feedback. Thank you, and have a good week.